Hi there. So, a while ago I did a tutorial on how to produce routes, isochrones and travel time matrices using the OSM Tools plugin in QGIS. Now, the OSM Tools plugin has since been updated and replaced and renamed to ORS Tools, which stands for OpenRouteService. So OpenRouteService is basically a routing service, as the name suggests, based around OpenStreetMap's open source mapping data. And it's accessible via an online API, and it's a great tool because it allows you to have up to 2,500 calls per day for free to carry out routing calculations. And what it basically means is that you can work out directions, travel times, distances where you can reach within certain times or distances from points without having to go through all the hassle of setting up your own network dataset, which can be quite a daunting undertaking. Network datasets, particularly kind of accurate, reliable ones, take quite a lot of setup and effort. So OpenRouteService gives you access to all of those facilities for free. So in this tutorial, I'm going to talk you through how you can set that up and get it going within QGIS. So if you're new to QGIS, then I'd recommend watching my other video on QGIS basics before you get started, just to familiarise yourself with the layout and how things work. And once you've done that, we can dive straight in. So the first thing you'll need to do is make sure you've got the ORS Tools plugin installed. So we go to Plugins, Manage and Install Plugins, and then if you search ORS in the top here, you should find the ORS Tools plugin. And you can see here a basic description of what it does. I've already got it installed, but if not, you'll have the install plugin option down here, and it should just take a few seconds to download and install. So once it's installed, then you'll be able to find it. So it's now located under the web menu on ORS Tools, or on your toolbar with the ORS Tools icon here. So the other job that we need to do before we can get started is to actually get an API key for the OpenRouteService. So that will give us the permissions to make up to 2,500 calls per day. So if you don't have an API key already, then you need to click on Sign Up here, and that will take you to the registration window, and you can go through there. Log in. Now I already have one, so once you log in, you'll be able to get to the dashboard window, and the first time you come here, you'll need to set up a token. So you can select free token down here, give it a name. Doesn't really matter what the name is, that's just kind of your reference for the project. So I could call it ORS Tools, and then click create a token. Now I already have one up here, so it won't let me create a second. You can only produce one token, but if you're setting this up for the first time, once you click that, your token will appear up here with the API key in the middle, and simply clicking on that allows you to copy the API key to the clipboard, and we can then hop back over into QGIS, click on the little cog icon here and paste in your API key, click OK, and you're ready to go. So there's various different services available within the ORS Tools plugin. The advanced directions option over here basically lets us get directions by selecting points or lines directly from the map. Now I'm not really going to focus on that today, because I think for actually a lot of the tasks that we have, we're more likely to have our own data already within QGIS and want to generate points or directions, isochrones, based around that data. So I'm actually just going to come back out of the plugin for a second and just talk a little bit about the data. So generally when we're working with the ORS Tools plugin, we'll probably be basing it around a point data set. So we'll have a series of points that we want to calculate isochrones, which are areas that we can travel to within a certain distance or time, or calculate directions between, or calculate travel times between. So I've created a layer just simply with 3 points here located around Manchester in the UK. Now, one of the improvements of ORS Tools compared to the old OSM Tools plugin is actually that it seems to work correctly no matter what CRS coordinate reference system your point layer is in. So previously you had to have your points in WGS 84 lat long coordinates to actually get results. It seems like now if you've got your points in a different projection, then the ORS Tools plugin will still produce routes and isochrones for you without any problems. So that's a big benefit that just saves us a step if we're working in a different projection within our project. So once you've got, final point. So it may be that you've got a data set that has areas, so it could be parks, could be schools, whatever it is you're working with. So in that case, what you'll need to do is actually to digitize the access points to those areas. So if you wanted to calculate, where's the nearest park, or who can access this park within a 10 minutes walk, then what you'd actually do is take that park polygon and create points at each of the entrances to the park. So you could actually have multiple points per polygon. And that would then give you a point layer that you could use to carry out travel time analysis. Okay, so I'm now going to open back up the ORS Tools plugin and just quickly show you some of the options that it has. So I'll go to the batch jobs for a start. So the first thing we can do is produce directions. This essentially produces a line layer that connects routes between your different locations. Now I'm working with points, so I'm going to go to directions from points. Under provider, we're going to select OpenRouteService. Now again, this is a new option and something that I have to admit I've not experimented with yet, but we do have the option to actually connect to different providers and use this plugin. So as well as using OpenRouteService, we could be getting our network data from elsewhere. But I'm just going to focus on the OpenRouteService for now because it's a great service, it's free, so why wouldn't we use it? So our start points, so I've got my depots layer, and we can use an ID field here. So I'm just going to stick with the default ID field. And I'm actually going to create routes between each of my points. So my endpoint layer is going to be the same as my start point layer. But you may well have two separate layers, one showing your start points, one showing your endpoints. We have a whole range of travel modes to choose from. So in this case, I'm going to go with walking. We can choose whether we want the fastest route or the shortest route. So I'm actually going to go with shortest route, and we can say whether we want to look across row by row or all by all. And I want to create routes between all of my different points, not just from one row to the next. So I'm going to go with the all by all option. And then we can either create a temporary layer or we can save it to a file. So I'm going to save it to a file, put it in a folder here called travel, and I'm going to call this walking directions. You can also choose your file type, so you want it as a shapefile, GeoJSON. I'm going to actually stick with QGIS's GeoPackage format for now. Save that, run, and within a few seconds we have the result. So this, as I said, produces a line layer. I'm just going to change the formatting here. Let's just go with neon so it stands out nice and brightly. Now we can see the routes that it's produced. So these are now the shortest walking route as far as the OpenRouteService can figure out between each of the 3 points on my map. And if we open the attributes table, we can see it also gives us the distance, estimated travel time in hours. So these are actually between several of the points, about just over 7 kilometers, reckons an hour and a half or so. Two of the points are a bit further apart, 9.7 kilometers, and just under 2 hours walking time. Okay, so that's the directions option. The next option we have is isochrones. So as I mentioned before, isochrones are basically areas of equal travel time or equal distance around our points. And they're great if we want to calculate catchment areas. So anything from a takeaway trying to calculate where can we deliver to within a 10-minute delivery time, to schools, to, as I said, kind of looking at things like access to green space, access to hospitals. We can kind of calculate which households fall within a certain distance or a certain travel time from those locations. So once again, I'm going with OpenRouteService as our provider. We can pick from the map, but I'm going to go with our layer again. So we're going to calculate isochrones around the depots layer. Input layer ID field I'm not going to worry about. We can pick our travel mode again. So this time I'm going to go with cycling road. I'm going to go with time, and then we can put in here what our isochrones should be. So I'm working with time, so these are going to be in minutes. So I want 5, 10, and 15-minute isochrones. So it will actually calculate 3 separate areas around each of my points that we can reach in 5, 10, or 15 minutes of road cycling. So I'll call this cycling isochrones. Click run, and again, within just a few seconds, we have our isochrones. We can now see where we can reach within 5, 10, and 15 minutes of each of our points. And we can also see this opens up potential for analysis of looking at overlapping areas, which areas are actually served by multiple locations. So around the centre here, we can reach all of these points within a 15-minute cycle ride. And then the final tool we have within ORS Tools is to calculate a travel time matrix. So again, I'm going to have OpenRouteService as our provider, depots is the start point, and also the end point. So what this is going to do is just calculate a grid of travel times, the kind of thing you might get at a train station or something. How long does it take to get from each location to each alternative location? This time I'm going to go with driving a car, and I'm going to save this and call it driving matrix. And there we go. Again, only takes a couple of seconds. And this time there's no map output. It doesn't create any features. It just produces an attribute table, which we could then obviously join to our other points if we so wished. So it shows us to get from point 3 to point 1 takes 0.23 hours, so just under a quarter of an hour, and is about 8.5 kilometers. So we can now see how long and what distance it is between each of our points. And that's what we can do with the ORS Tools plugin. So hopefully that's been useful. There's a huge range of potential applications, whether it's from calculating directions or in particular looking at isochrones and kind of catchment areas and areas that are served by different facilities. So hopefully that was useful. Please remember to like and follow the channel if you found it helpful, and check out my other tutorials. Thanks a lot.